Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Lefebvre, and a couple weeks ago I did some short videos or reels on Instagram where I did 7 days of spring flowers because basically I'm just sick and tired of winter and I'm ready for the flowers to bloom. So obviously that can't happen, so I made it happen on watercolor paper. People seem to love it so much that they were wondering where the full video was, and I made them just as reels. So today I'm going to pick my top 5 from those 7 days and I'm going to break it down nice and simple, but in real time to show you how to paint these easy spring flowers. So let's jump in and get started. Okay friends, so we are going to be painting 5 spring flowers that honestly I believe almost anyone can do. I'm going to break them down into really simple shapes so you can be the most successful with your watercolor paintings. So today I am using my Meeden watercolor paper, which I really love. It's cold press 100% cotton. I have my Shinhan watercolors here that I've squeezed from tubes into my palette, let them dry overnight. And lastly, I'm going to be using my travel brushes from my new set that I have done with Craftimo. They are currently unavailable, but hopefully they will be back in stock soon. Make sure to check the link below to see if they are in stock, but I absolutely love them. I'm probably going to be using my size 6 the most. All right, and that's it. Let's get started. So the first flower is probably one of the easiest flowers in my opinion, to paint, and that is a tulip. So I'm going to take my size 6 brush, and I'm going to start with a light wash of pink. So just adding a little bit of water to my pink in a mixing well, and I'm going to start off by almost kind of painting this leaf shape. So I'm going to go light pressure, press down a heavy pressure, and then slowly lift up. So you have this kind of crescent curve. I'm going to go back up to the top, and then meet it down there and just fill it in. Now, if you want to make it super easy, you can have these tulips closed like this. I'm just going to use the tip of my brush to kind of make a bit of a jagged edge at the top. So I'm going to make these tulips more closed, like they're nice and fresh, haven't bloomed yet. It's the easier way to do it. Okay, and then I'm actually going to grab a little bit more pink to make it slightly darker. I'm going to tap it on my paintbrush just a little bit to take off any excess water, and I'm just going to tap the bottom a little bit while it's still wet to get a little bit of a color bleed, so it's a little bit darker at the bottom. And then we're going to let that dry. Let's do another one beside it. I'm going to go slightly above just so it looks a little bit more staggered. And again, just doing the same thing, making these nice and simple. So like a leaf shape, and then you can just use the shape of your brush to kind of make a jagged little top, a rounded center, and then back down, but more of like a rounded bottom. You don't want it to come to a point at the bottom, more of a rounded bottom. Now, the one problem I do see with beginners is that they go in with their first layer too dark. Honestly, I even feel like this is too dark. So if you ever go in and it's a little bit more on the darker side, you want to lighten it up. Wash and dry off your brush, and you can just kind of go over it and just lift some of that color just a tad so it's a bit lighter. It just helps to create a bit more highlight. So that one's going to be a little bit lighter, but then I'm going to go back in with my darker wash, and I'm just going to tap. I didn't go in my water. I just went right into the paint because I don't want to add a ton of water on here, but I just want to add a little bit of darker color to the base here. Okay. And we can just kind of blend that out a little bit. And there we go. Okay. Then we're going to let those tulip heads dry. Now you're going to pick your favorite green. I have this olive green. I'm going to start from the base. Make sure it's dry or else the green's going to bleed into it, or you can just start slightly below. I'm going to do a nice thin stem using like a vertical hold with my brush. I'm going to do another one that they're going to cross over and kind of meet at the bottom like that. Then I'm going to do 2 leaves. I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to start with light pressure, start dragging, and then apply more pressure so the bristles fan out. It gets thicker, and then start to release pressure as you meet the bottom of the stem there. There's 1 leaf. And then this one, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do light pressure, heavier pressure, start dragging, and I'm actually going to start curving and lifting my brush so it kind of goes to a point like that. Okay. And then you want everything to completely dry. Okay, and then once it's all dry, you can add a little bit more detail. I'm gonna grab a little bit more darker pink, and I'm just going to, see this little dip at the top here? I'm just gonna do a little line kind of curving down, and that just shows a little bit of separation of the tulip petals at the top. Okay, so it's a little bit thicker towards the top, and then it goes to a point. And then I'm just gonna do these tiny little, maybe not too dark, little textured lines on the petals. You can even do some from the top. Not as dark as that line there. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other one. Like that, just so it looks like they're separated. And then again, a couple more little lines to show a bit of texture on the petals. Make sure those lines are curved with the shape of the petals. They're not stark, like straight lines. It will look a little weird. Then, lastly, a little bit more shadow on our stem and our leaves with a darker green. I'm using like a shadow green here. I'm just going to go from the top onto this left side, dragging a little bit of dark green there, down, and then here I'm going to start where this one kind of comes out behind this one. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit, and I'm going to go underneath this curve. So it's going to look like there's a bit of a curve, like a fold in our petal there. See that? And you can always darken a little bit of the stems, maybe so it looks like one is kind of behind the other. And I'm just going to blend it out, wash and dry off my brush, and just kind of blend it out so it's not so harsh. And that's it. There are our tulips, 5-minute tulips. Okay, so that's our first flower. Our next flower is a daffodil. So for our daffodil, I'm just going to show you quickly on this scrap piece of paper. The center of our daffodil is going to be kind of like this trumpet shape. You're going to draw with your brush like this loose, kind of squiggly circle. And then you're going to have 2 lines coming in on an angle, and then you're just going to round it off. That's what you're going to do. And all the base of the petals are going to come from around that base. Okay, they all connect to the bottom. So let's start off with a really light wash of orange. So I'm just mixing a little bit of yellow with like pink and stuff. And I'm going to do a squiggly circle. And then 2 lines like I drew, coming back on an angle, and then a little curve. I'm going to wash off my brush a bit. It's a little dark, and I'm just going to fill in the whole thing like that. And that is the center of our daffodil. Okay, then with some yellow, I'm going to start drawing the petals. I'm going to draw one with the tip of my brush, kind of coming out this way. So the base of all the petals are coming right back here. So here's one petal, and this is kind of like on a tilted perspective. So you're not going to see all the petals evenly. Then I'm going to do one kind of on an angle over here. 2. And while they're still wet, I don't want those stark kind of like straight lines there. I'm going to just blend it out a bit. I'm going to try and leave a little bit of white space in these petals. So I'm just adding some yellow, and I just added it with my water. I honestly didn't even dip it back in there, just went in with some water to kind of blend out these dark yellow outlines. And I'm leaving just little bits of white there on the petals. Okay, then I'm going to grab a bit more yellow. I'm going to do one kind of behind these 2, like that. And you can kind of fill it in. Again, leave a little bit of white space. The white space acts as a highlight. And then we're going to do kind of one behind here. We're not touching the center because it's still kind of wet. Fill it in a little bit, leave a little white space, and then maybe a little bit of one tucked over here. It's not even a full petal. Just a little peak of a petal. Okay. Then I'm going to grab a little bit more of like our orange, and I'm going to tap the base of the petal where they all kind of touch this part, that center, just so there's a little bit more darkness around the base of those petals. You can add a little bit of darkness into the tips as well, like so. But you really do want to preserve those white highlights and those lighter values of yellow. Then we're going to let that dry. We're going to add some green to our paintbrush, and we're going to have a stem coming out. I want you to imagine the stem is coming right from that center. So you're going to just draw an imaginary line, and then right when we hit the paper without a petal, you're going to come out. One thing I see with beginners is that they'll draw a stem, and if you kind of hold up a paintbrush of where the stem was leading, it like doesn't go through the middle of the flower. It always has to connect to that middle. So if you want to show a curve, make sure your stem is curved, that you could draw a line right back to that middle. It makes it look a bit more realistic. Okay. And then the leaves for these ones are long like these, but not as pointed. So we're just going to make them a little bit more blunt. So you're just going to lift up your brush a little bit quicker, or you can just like kind of round out the top. Like so. And those are the leaves. And then we let this whole thing dry. Okay, finally, we're going to do a little bit of detail. So I'm just making a little bit of a darker orange, just adding a little bit more pink to my yellow here. And I'm just going to kind of go around the bottom of this circle like that, a little bit of waves. And I'm just going to add a little bit of darker orange there. I'm going to wash off my brush. And then I'm just going to blend it out like that. Then I'm going to grab a little bit more, and I'm just going to kind of add a little bit more darkness to the center like that. Leave a little bit of yellow around, just a little bit of darkness there. You can even add a little bit of brown if you wanted to, like the tiniest bit, like that. Okay. Then I'm just going to grab a little bit more of my orange color, and I'm just going to do some lines coming out from the base of these petals. Now, if that orange is kind of taken over the whole center and you feel like it's just too much, you can always wash off your brush, dry it on your paper towel a bit, and just lift some of that color. Or you can always take your paper towel and just dab it up just a little bit and just add shadow as needed. But I'm just adding some little lines to the petals like so. And then I'm going to grab my dark green again. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow to this leaf, just a line, and that leaf, and that's it. There is our daffodil. If you wanted to make this a little bit more, like, give it a little bit more shadow, you can always add a little bit of like a darker brown to the base here, and maybe like a little bit in here, just for a little bit more dark shadow right at the base. Just makes it pop just a little bit more. Maybe around this petal, because it's kind of behind the others. Maybe this one, like the smallest amount of paint. All right, so there is our daffodil. Okay, now we are going to do a snowdrop. Those should be blooming very, very soon, I hope. For this one, I'm going to start with some green, and I'm going to start by doing this kind of gumdrop shape. So it's a round, kind of almost like a triangle, and then a rounded bottom here, like that. Small little gumdrop. This is the top of the flower. Okay, and then our snowdrops are actually white flowers. So whenever I'm painting a white flower, I take a really light wash of indigo. I'm just going to add a lot of water. So it's really, 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 really watered down. Okay. Then I'm going to draw, how did I want to do this? I'm going to draw a petal kind of coming down here, an outline. So it's like a leaf shape almost, really lightly with that color. And I'm going to have another one kind of coming out to the side here, and another one coming out to the side here. Then I'm just going to add some more of that color, again leaving some of that white highlight there because it's a white flower, but adding some of that color just so we're really painting in the shadows. Okay, you just want to leave a little bit of white paper for the highlight. Now, if you touch the green, it might bleed into the green, but honestly, that's okay if it bleeds in a little bit. Might even take a little bit more green and just kind of let it bleed a little bit. All right. Just going to add a little bit more here. And we're going to add more shadow after. Okay, then you're going to grab your green again, and we're going to do like this candy cane shape. So we're going to go from the top of that gumdrop shape, just with the tip of our brush, and make this long kind of curved stem. Then we're going to do this long kind of stem kind of coming out to a point over top of it. Like that. Bring it down. And we're going to do small, kind of like similar leaves to this. What's up? Okay. Do a leaf there. Maybe another leaf over here. Give it a little bit of movement. Curve it a little bit. Like so. Okay. Now, because this flower grows out of the ground in the snow, I just want to wash off my brush slightly, dry it on my paper towel a little bit, and I just want to kind of blend this out a bit. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. Just a little bit, like it's coming out of the snow. You don't have to do that. And if you don't like it, you can always mop it up. Okay, I just like to do that. Okay, and then we're going to let that all completely dry. Okay, now that it's dry, we can add our detail, and this is what's really going to make it pop. So I'm going to grab a little bit of our darker indigo. Okay, and I'm just going to go back into my petals, not too dark, and I'm just going to add some more shadow at the base. Okay, these ones are behind that front one, so I'm going to add a little bit more shadow to the sides here. I'm going to kind of blend it out. See how it pops out a bit more now? You really just want to add the smallest amount of color. Like, you need a lot less than you think. But you want to make it the darkest right under that little gumdrop shape. Okay, that's what's going to make it, give it a lot of depth and make it pop. You can add some really light lines there if you like that. I need a little bit more shading on this guy right here. Add a little bit more darker green, and then I'm going to wash off my brush, dry it a bit. I'm just going to blend it out just so it's not such a harsh line. Like that. I'm going to grab my dark green. And again, just my go-to for shading, just a little kind of line here. And then underneath that curve, a little bit of shadow. Now, if you don't have olive green, like I keep using olive green, that's just like my go-to green. It's just my favorite green in this palette. You can use whatever green you like. Okay, and there is our snowdrop. I love it. If you wanted to make it even like just a little bit more of a deeper, darker shadow, just like the tiniest bit, sometimes that helps too, just to really make it pop. Okay, there we go. All right. Our next one is a hyacinth. I love hyacinth. They smell so good. And they're actually going to be very similar to our last one. So let's do, I think I wanted to make this one more blue. So I'm going to grab this ultramarine. I have some blue here. I'm just going to mix it in there. Some ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to add a little bit of purple to it. Like that. And I'm going to take a really light wash. So just kind of rinsing my brush. And I'm going to create these kind of like oval shapes, long oval shapes. I'm going to do another one, 2 of them. And they're going to kind of overlap each other. And you actually want them on the lighter side. So try and go lighter. I'm just going to lift this up. If you have to, you could always lift it up and start again or just add water. Lighter is better. Okay. And they're just these 2 kind of oval shapes. Then you're going to kind of just make the oval shapes lumpy. So I'm just using the tip of my brush to make them kind of lumpy looking. Like so. Like that. Then while they're still wet, I'm going to grab more of that color and I'm going to just tap in some dots. This one I'm tapping behind this one. So see how this one's kind of behind? I'm just tapping in some of these dark dots right behind. So this one kind of stands out like this. And they're still wet. So you're getting these kind of like blended out looks. I'm not going to do up to the top. Then I'm going to tap in this side of this one. Like that. Then I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave that one to dry. So you want light wash over here on both sides. Okay. Then you're gonna grab a little bit of brown, and we're gonna do 2 stems coming from them, like that. Then you're gonna grab your green, and I'm just gonna do a few stockier kind of pointed leaves like this, like that. I'm gonna do one kind of coming up here, maybe another one down here. Now on my reel on Instagram, I actually had them coming from a bulb, which I love the look of it. So I'm gonna grab some brown, and I'm going to kind of bring this down a little bit, go in and then out to like this circle, fill it in with brown, tap off my brush just a little bit, and I'm going to do these really kind of like loose roots coming from the bottom, like that. Okay? I don't know why I did this one like that. I just like it. Then you let everything completely dry. Okay, now that it's dry, you're going to go into your blue again, a little bit darker, mixed with a little bit of purple. And all you're going to do are these tiny little kind of like curves. It's like we're mimicking flowers. You don't want it too dark. And especially on this shadow side, we want it darker. So I'm just doing these like little, imagine like 4-petal flowers, but it doesn't have to be accurate. Like it can be kind of messy and scribbly. You're just kind of doing loops almost like that. Then kind of come off of the edges as well. And then as we get closer to the highlighted side, I'm just going to lighten the color a little bit, just wash it off on my brush, wash my brush off a little bit in my water. So it's a lighter wash, and I'm just going to do these little textured marks just so it's nice and light. Like that. I'm going to grab my dark green again, and I'm just going to separate these leaves, a little bit of shadow, like that. I'm going to grab my brown, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow to one side, preferably the same side that has the left side where there's a shadow on both of these. Just adding a little bit of darkness there, and that's it. There's your hyacinth. All right, now lastly, we are going to do lilacs. Very similar process to this one. Okay, we're going to do 2 again. It's my favorite flower. We're going to change up the color, change up the shape a little bit. So this one, I'm going to add a little bit of purple to my pink here. Maybe a little bit of blue. And I'm going to start off with a really light wash, and it's like a cone shape. Okay, so I'm going to draw it out to show you. It's like a cone shape like this. All right, and then you're going to fill it in. Again, try and make it lighter. And then you're going to make it all like wonky edges. You can even have like little dots kind of coming off the top. Okay, and then I'm going to do another one. I'm going to make it light. Still a little bit too dark for me. I want it lighter. I always go too dark. There. Okay, and I'm going to do another kind of cone shape. This one's going behind. They can kind of blend together. It's all good. And then just make it kind of wonky, blobby shapes like this. Okay, then you're going to go in with your colors, your darker values. I'm going to start off on this one, again, making it dark behind this front one, adding in that dark color right on this side so this one pops out. And then I'm just going to tap, tap, tap. I'm going to take off a little bit of that color and just tap a little bit more. And it starts to get more sparse as we move to the highlighted area. Make sure you add some of those darker bits kind of coming off of the shape as well. Just very little bit like that. Then you're going to do this side. You want this to be highlighted. The left side of both flowers are going to be darker. Like that. I'm going to wash off my brush a bit, dry it, and I'm just going to kind of push back a little bit. It's kind of bleeding into it. Okay, I'm just going to kind of mix this up. I might even add a little bit of blue in there. You can get kind of like different colors of the lilac. So like a little bit of the bluish purple. Kind of mix it up a little bit. Some parts at the top here. There. Okay. Love it. Okay. Then brown, 2 stems again. The difference with this one, I'm going to kind of bring this stem down a little bit so it's like a stick. The leaves are shorter and fatter. They're a little bit more luscious. So I'm actually going to come right from underneath. I'm going to do a little kind of the vein of the middle of the leaf here. And then I'm just going to do a curve to one side, curve to the other. See how fat and luscious that leaf is? Now, if it bleeds into your lilac, that's okay. It's going to be dark there anyway. But if you don't like it, you can always tap your brush off on your paper towel and just kind of move it backwards. Or you can use your paper towel to kind of mop it all up and try again. I'm going to do another one over here. So I want these leaves really kind of coming right from the base. If you want to change up the color of your green a little bit, you could always add a little bit more blue so they're a little bit different from each other. Like that. Like that. Do another one, just like another little leaf down here so it doesn't feel left out. Maybe one kind of back here, like that. And then I'm gonna grab my dark green while it's still dark or still wet, and I'm just gonna tap it into the base of these leaves. So it's really dark right under those flowers. And then we're gonna let everything dry. All right. Now that it's dry, we can go back in. Same thing like we did on the hyacinth. You're just taking your dark purple and you're just kind of doing these little squiggles for the flowers. Make it darker where the shadow already is. And then as you get to the highlighted areas, you take off some of that pigment. Still do the little squiggles, but it's very light, okay? Again, you can kind of mix and match the blues and the pinks and the purples for this. Switch it up a bit. Matt, cut a lot of this part out, like where I'm not talking. I want to make this video shorter than longer. Okay, and then finally, just a little bit more darkness on the leaves. Maybe like a little vein if you want to, for a little bit. Like lines for the middle of the leaves. Like that. It's totally up to you. I can speak, I promise. And that's about it. And there we go. There are 5-minute spring florals. I really hope you guys enjoyed these and found them easier than you thought. Let me know in the comments below, and that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a great day, guys. Bye.